Okay, so the first topic for this panelists is um, so we asked them, were they prepared for motherhood? And if they were prepared, how was it? How was that preparation impacted their home and marriage? If not, how did the mother responsibility now hit them? What were the shocks, if there were any? And how are they coping now? So they will speak freely. We will ask them questions between me and my moderator there. And then just listen. If you have any question, put it down. In the Q&A session, you can bring up the question. We'll respond to it. If we need to bring them up to answer, we'll bring them to answer question. And that one's wife. So, I don't know if Sister Catherine is live on. Media, is Sister Catherine on?
Yes, she is.
Okay, so she will go first. At least now that I have a clear network. So, Sister Catherine, please do go first. Just listen.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here, and I can tell you that for free that I certainly was not prepared for motherhood, right? In fact, I was not prepared for life in general. As an adult, I just went through the motions. You know, you finish school, you look for a job without necessarily thinking of what I wanted to become in future and what my plans were in X number of years. And so when motherhood came, it was quite the happy accident. I was not ready at the time to become a mother, but it came, and my husband and I were very joyful. We accepted it. There was nothing, how do I put it, untoward about, God's gift. We recognized it for the gift that it was, and we accepted it. However, it soon became apparent after my first child, very quickly so, that it was not the walk in the park that perhaps my head had anticipated it to be. First of all, I was a working mother, and you can imagine somebody who would leave the home at 7 a.m. and then come back at 10 p.m. I didn't have that time to bond with my daughter. And fast forward, few years after that, I had help, by the way, but it just was not enough to, I didn't have help with my time, let's put it that way. And so I didn't have the time to bond with her. And then shortly after that, when I had my son, that was, his birth was complicated with the fact that he was diagnosed with autism. And so that led to a whole new level of unpreparedness. And I found myself consistently being resentful. I would wake up in the morning, go to work with a frown, come back home with a frown. I was angry all the time. And it was not until I was saved that, and started reading the Bible, started listening to the word exegeted, that I came to understand what motherhood was. And so for me, one of the first things I can say for sure now is, first and foremost, it is a gift that cannot be regifted. You cannot repackage this gift. You can't hand over your baby, your child, your children to somebody else, your mother, even your husband, or a nanny to train up for you. The Bible is very clear. Train up a child in the way he would go. And when he grows old, he will not depart from it. Now the question is, who is that person that is training up the child? Obviously, both parents. But in the scheme of things, where the husband is the provider you are the primary caregiver, as Genesis rightly puts it. And so when you're thinking about all the issues that come with, the stress that comes with motherhood, just remind yourself that, first of all, you have to embody the biblical motherhood, right? And then there was something else. I know a lot of women who have struggled, balancing career and motherhood. And I can tell you for free that there's no such thing as work-life balance or work-home balance. You have to pick one over the other at the end of the day. So if you were aspiring to be, I don't know, the next prime minister of the country or CEO of your own company, you have to consider your family first and foremost before work, because God did not create us to come and work and then make money and enjoy ourselves. As long as He's given us that gift of motherhood, we have to take it with all the seriousness and that the responsibility holds for us. And so that means that if you were aspiring for something, then you have to take a step back and think critically about how to balance that work and home. And where work gets in the way of home, you have to decide, for example, if you were someone who used to work very late, you have to have a conversation with your bosses and say, look, as difficult as it may be, or decide by yourself to leave work as at when you're supposed to leave, 5 p.m., and not stay and do, overtime. And let me just speak a little bit about even the process of giving birth as well. I had mentioned earlier on that, it's a gift, first of all, you have to recognize. And so it's not something you can easily give over to anybody else. But even in the process of pregnancy, especially when it interferes with work, your professional career, I have heard of women who have decided to, and this is a very touchy subject, but needs to be said nonetheless, who have decided to abort their kids in favor of, a career. Again, let's go back to the sin of Adam and Eve and remember that in trying to destroy the gift that you have been given, you are obviously in contradiction with God's word. And so you ought to recalibrate your mental, your mind to prepare yourself for motherhood so that you are not caught unawares. Now, Pastor Sage had mentioned, mental preparedness. And it's one of those key things that you really need to do whenever you need to consider before you become, you're given that gift, right? I was not mentally prepared at all. Like I said, I was just going through life, as it were. But I believe that as we are in this conference and the ladies listening to me who are yet to, get married, this is the time for you to prepare, to think about your future, to say, okay, what do I want to become in future? And when I do get married, what are the things that I want to do, right? How does that impact my, future state as a mother? And so on and so forth. You have to
Okay, so,
categorize these
Sister
things
Catherine,
and prepare yourself
Sister
mentally.
Catherine, can you hear
Yeah?
us?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because I didn't see your face, that's why I asked you. If I was seeing your
But I
face.
hope you can hear me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So you have taken your time,
Oh,
my wife's time.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So
I will.
stay online. We have two questions
Okay.
for you, but let's hear Sister Abusola. Sajoko, okay, yeah, okay, fine. Sajoko, but stay on the line. We have a question for you, but after Sajoko.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Um, I think, like Catherine said, I think, like Catherine said, there's a lot of unpreparedness when it comes to motherhood. I was, I think, I was partially unprepared, and that would be in the areas of pregnancy, in the areas of pregnancy, I was in total shock with the way my pregnancies went. I was quite ill, and I was totally like not able to function as a human being. Basically, all I knew to be was to be a wife and a mother at that point, and I couldn't be any of those things, especially with my second pregnancy. So I was just totally lost and just totally shocked, and I wasn't prepared for that. And a lot of people can't really anticipate, the people that will be around you, your support system, they may not know that that will be your experience. They may not even have that kind of experience, so they don't see that coming for you, so they can't even prepare you. So you're just totally alone. Another area of being unprepared was, having to relocate with children. I was not prepared for that at all. When you don't have kids and you have to relocate, you just think, oh yeah, just pack up, you move, sort things out. But with children, it's a totally different ball game. And so that I wasn't prepared for at all. I also wasn't prepared for when the helplessness you feel when you have a baby that's sick, especially when they're just fresh into the world and you're like, they're sick and you just don't know what to do. So those kind of things can really throw you off. And they just put you in a situation where you can't think. In some areas, I would say I was somehow prepared, but not deliberately. I was prepared by observation, observing my mom, my aunts, and when I did join some local churches, observing, what the women did there. From family and my aunts and my mom, I observed how she would read the Bible to us, regardless of whatever challenges or life disruptions were going on. She would play with us. Both my parents played with us, and I just found that is very dear to me, and it's very much etched in my heart and my mind that my parents really played with us. So I was able to carry that on into my motherhood with my kids. I also was prepared in some way just by observing how my mom took care of us, feeding us in a healthy way, whether we had plenty or we didn't have much. So practical things, I was prepared in some of those aspects. I wasn't, when it came to the local church, I was put in a discipleship relationship with another lady, and so that really helped me. And I was able to observe how she was a wife, how she was a mother. She would, say, you just have to come with me. I don't have time to sit down with you one-on-one right now. You just have to come and be part of my life. So I would get in the car with her. If she's going to pick up a child from school, I'm there with her. If she's running errands, I'm in the car with her. If she's going to the markets, I go with her. Thankfully, she was relocating at some point, so I was able to be with her when she was sorting things out. And then in one of the local churches I was a part of at some point, the women in the church used to organize the baby showers and the bridal showers. And it was very intentional in how they equipped you to be a mother and how to be a wife. And they would pick different areas where they would talk to you, or they would pick, a godly, mature lady that would be able to talk about a particular topic. And they would split the topics into maybe 6 different topics. And they would all talk to you about it. And they were always there to guide you and support you. And once you had a baby, everybody was there to bring meals, and you could talk. You had this circle that you could at least reach out to, and all of that. And I think being every time we relocated, and you think you're going to start fresh, you start new, and you're like, okay, now I can get on with my life. But then I wasn't prepared for the seemingly endless sacrifice that you have to make as a mother. It just doesn't stop, and you're not ready for that at all. And that would create, like Kathy said, resentment, anger, and confusion, basically. I think that's basically it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
before your question, I have a question for you. You talked about discipleship, which is quite interesting. I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you disciple somebody now the same way you were discipled? Like someone tag along with you for like 3-4 days. Do you think it's possible? I'm praying for what up there. Do you think it's possible now?
I think it is possible. I think one has to also accept that you're growing as a Christian. And I've been told, at first I didn't think it was possible, but I've spoken to some older women in the faith, and they have told me, Joko, you're going to grow, and your sisters are going to grow with you. So I think it is possible by God's grace.
Okay, so my question is, you said you had to deal with anger and resentment. Can you explain to us how you were able to handle those emotions, and how did the Lord encourage you and help you pass that phase? Because I'm sure some sisters here might be in that phase that you were at.
So initially, I didn't deal with it well. I was, I was just angry. I was kind of like wallowing in self-pity, and just like a storm is just raging in your mind, in your head all the time. And I had to, I had to accept. I had to come to a place where I had to accept that these were the emotions I was feeling, and regardless of how I thought of myself, that these were real. I was angry, I was bitter, I was resentful, and some of that, when I had to get to a place where I was so broken. Sometimes it would take only, whispering prayers to God, right? And I realized that it was prayers that kind of helped to set my mind straight. And once I started praying, then things started to fall in place. Not immediately, it wasn't magical or anything like that, but you have peace about the direction in which God will take you in when you're going through these trials. And then, sorry, what was the other part you said? So prayer, like I said, and then just laying everything out before God. And I think one has to be careful with looking to the world, because there's so many options, self-help options on how you should deal with the situation you're in. Everybody has something to say, and you have to be careful with what you listen to, what you accept, and what you hold close to your heart. And being able to pray is such a gift that God has given us, that it sets us in the right direction. And so being able to pray just, put me, I think God was gracious to just remind me that it's prayer and I need to pray. And that helped me to deal with it. And then I realized once I prayed, I also knew that, dealing with anger, like I said earlier when I sent the message to you, I spoke to a pastor once, and he said, if you're angry, it means there's something else there. And usually what that is pride, and is lurking behind. So if you're too prideful to pray, you realize there's just different things that start coming up, and you know that, okay, you're not taking anything to God. You think you can do it by yourself. You think you can sort it out, or you think you're above this kind of behavior or emotions or reactions. And you realize that, the anger is, the pride is what's leading to the anger, and is what's leading to the sinful situation, which is really, our heart is sinful. And, if you go to James chapter 4, verse 1, it tells us that, it says, why do we quarrel? It's because of the passions that are war within us.
Yeah.
And if you read further on from there, you would see it addresses everything else, that is connected to being angry and quarrelsome. Yeah.
Thank you. So I have a question for Sister Catherine. Are you still there? Is Catherine
Yes,
there?
I am.
Okay, so 1
Yes, I
minute. 1 minute, or I'll arrest you in Canada there. Your story is pre-conversion and then post-conversion. When the switch happened, can you just give us like 1 minute of what happened when you started to come to know the Lord, and how has that changed your journey, your conversion? Because before you started motherhood before you were converted. Now that you're converted, what happened in between the two, before and after? 1 minute.
Okay, so the thing about the Word of God is it convicts you, right? The more you take time to study the Word, the more the Spirit convicts you. And, the more you are aware of your sins, and when you then, like Joko just mentioned, when you pray, you seek comfort in God's Word and in Him, you then things just become clearer. And that was really it for me. I found that, prior to conversion, I really couldn't express my anger, my resentment in words to my husband or anybody around me. I bottled it in. But after that, I learned how to, approach it sensibly, talking to my husband about my struggles. And men, they're not really perceptive, but sometimes they know you're going through stuff, but until you really articulate it to them, they really don't, they can't read minds. They don't know how they're going to help. And so articulating it to my husband really, really helped. And I sort of enabled that burden to be shared, and allowed it to sort of roll off of me, and and then there was some sort of resolution. I mean, obviously it didn't happen immediately, but you know what they say: a problem shared is a problem half solved. That's how I found it, and conversations with God, like Joko said, there are times that, I would just moan and groan, no words, You would have moments like that. But just know that no matter what situation you're going through, as long as you're before the Lord, He will certainly help you out of it. And this was my case
Okay.
every single time.
Okay, thank you so much. Still be on the call. So,
So,
yeah, yes, yes. Sister Joko, you are not out of the woods. I have a question for you. So let me hear from Sister. You can read from your notes. They are not on any hot seat. So, Sister Jesu, introduce yourself. Jesu Sheung. Yes. 5 minutes. I'm looking at you.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity, sir.
Your mic.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just like Pastor Sagi said this morning, that 9 months of marriage and expecting is almost the same thing as I went through. And I mean, for me, it was ushering into marriage, at the same time, motherhood, and at the same time, I had a rift with my family. So, three issues at the same time. That was huge for me. And there are days that I would just break down crying and just, whoa. And at the same time, having those pregnancy hormones. And God was just gracious to me that the pregnancy was smooth, didn't really have any complications. And I got to see God's mercies. And this is when I was actually not saved during this time. So I was, at first, I think when I had him, I had this postpartum depression, didn't want to touch him, no, just carry him away from me. Just let me be by myself. But my husband was actually a very good support system for me. And my mother-in-law was just, God used those two of them to just be a comfort to me, and started warming up. And a lot of mistakes I made with my first. I mean, sometimes I would see him, just little thing, I would panic. And my mother-in-law would be like, why are you? And to express that to her, I mean, I was expecting that she's a mother and mother of 3 boys. So at least she should understand. But it felt like I had to explain the whole situation to her. I just left it alone and had to just take that mantle of myself and training him. He's actually a low maintenance child, so there was no much stress. But like they say, the calm before the storm. And my storm came with my second. From the beginning to the very end. Till now. It was tumultuous. Pregnancy was, I mean, I couldn't get up from bed. At first, sometimes I would be like on my bed. By the time I get out of the door, it's like I'm a whole new person. I'm wondering what's going on. And that was how I went through till it was time for me to deliver. And God, in His mercies, actually restored my family and I back together. But like she said, there was still some sense of resentment in me. And I was angry a lot. And anything I could point, anything that got me angry, that was what I would express it at. And there was no way for me to sit down and sort it out. And because pregnancy hormones and so many things were just all over the place. But for me, it was, I think, few months after I had him, and God was able to settle me, and I began to sort each of those issues with the Lord, and a lot of repenting and crying out to Him and asking Him for forgiveness, because some of those things that she said was pride, because you feel that, oh, you've gotten one, and you feel that, oh, it's a walk in the park, like Sister Catherine said. So it was just a lot of confessing and repenting before the Lord, and now it's much better, and I am aware, with the help of this, with God's help, to see those shortcomings and avoid them as a mother. Like, for example, when I want to lashing out on them, that has always been my sticking point. And actually, that came from resentment, like Sister Catherine said. Like, you feel that those, I mean, they came to disturb your life. And that was how I felt. I felt that they came to disrupt me, and I just didn't want any of that. I had my own plans. I had what I wanted to do. And having two of them was like, come on. It's me, myself, and I.
They tie your feet.
As in, they've tied my feet. There's no... And that sacrifice, like, I think it's common for everybody. That sacrifice, we have to learn it each and every day we wake up, to realize that as I'm waking up, I am sacrificing my life for these people. And like you said about Abraham Lincoln's mother, we don't know her, but she is known because of her sacrifices, and we can see that today.
Okay, so I have a question quickly for her, please. You said that you were not converted when you entered your journey as a mother. And now you've come to know the Lord. So question is, how did you meet the Lord? I mean, it was something like you were in a crisis, motherhood crisis, you met the Lord. What happened, and are there still struggles now?
Yeah, for the coming to faith was, I mean, it was, I think it was a very, should I say, easy one, because I came to faith through a woman, actually, Paul Washer's wife's testimony. I heard her testimony, and from there I just realized who I was as a sinner. And I don't know, I think it just clicked. It connected with me from a mother to a mother. And from there, and mind you, we're actually out of the country at this point in time. And also there was a pandemic. And where we were, there was just this shutdown. You couldn't go anywhere. It was just me, my kids, and my husband, just three of us. And there was no, like, what she had, like that discipleship or someone to check on you, even a phone call. I didn't have none of that. So I had to learn reading books, and one thing was very important to me, and I want to actually say that Ask John Piper. That was a very tremendous tool for me. Whenever I had any issues, I would type it out. Like, I have issues as a mother, help. And I'll see something related with it, and it wasn't close to it, but everything that it kept, every of the answers it gave was always about the gospel.
So you needed guidance.
Exactly.
And you were looking for it anywhere you get it.
Anywhere I could get it. And that was
the one that helped.
That was the one that helped. And I think that diligence and resilience that I wanted answers. Even, and also, like you said in the first session, having people, believers, some of them may actually fail you. We have to be honest about that, because sometimes the mistake I had was I had high expectations about Titus 2 woman, because I've read it and I've studied it and I saw the standard of which a woman is to be, an older woman is to be. And when I saw the fellow older women around me, they shattered it. It was bad. I mean, I was like, what's going on? I mean, these are sisters. We are supposed to be around, but it was like everybody to himself. Some of them were grown up with their kids, and there was no passing on the baton. So I felt discouraged, and I just felt it's okay. It's one of those things you just move on. But that actually, let me put it in that way. I felt angry about that because I mean, this is something that the Bible has recommended, and I didn't see that. So I felt angry. But God actually helped me shape um, my priorities to see that not everybody is perfect. Not everybody is saints. Is everybody? Yeah, we are saints, but we are growing each and every day. So
Okay.
I think the gospel was just something I fell back on to grow.
So I'll ask you, and then I also have a question for Sister Catherine.
Can you speak
Um,
up to the mic? This
okay,
mic are
can you
not
hear
working.
me?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's okay. So you talked about pre-conversion and post-conversion. What practical steps are you taking now to keep your heart and your mind guided now that you know where you were and where you are now? What practical steps are you taking to stop yourself from going back to where you were in terms of your mind and your heart?
Wow, for my mind, this verse has actually, I would say it's been my anchor. Romans 12:1, where it says, renewing your mind. And that word, renewing your mind, it's a continuous verb. And it's actually by God's grace, I came to see that, like she said, you have to be careful of the things you hear. And honestly, there are a lot of voices from, even just from your family members, telling you what to do, how to be a mother. And you're like, okay. At first, I would listen to those things, but I didn't have the filter to sieve those things through. And that caused a lot of trouble for me spiritually. I would almost like I would be tilting, and so it was like I was shaking. But with God's help and also submitting yourself to authority, that's the church, actually helped me to be balanced. So when these people, they actually do mean well, but because of the difference of the gospel, that actually draws the line between us. So when I hear these things, I'm like, yeah, okay. And then the ones I will pick it, but the ones that are just shafts, I just
So you use the
let
word
it
of
be.
God to balance everything that
Exactly,
comes
just
in.
using the
Okay.
word of God to balance everything out.
For Sister Catherine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Um, can you share some practical steps that you have taken or are taking right now to avoid yourself from prioritizing your work above your family?
Sure. Um, it starts with going on your knees. So Charles Spurgeon said that he would rather teach one man to pray than 10 men to preach, right? The importance of prayer cannot be overemphasized. And so, and that is one critical thing that my mom also taught me. She was always a praying woman. Every time I went to her room, every time we met, she was always praying. And so that taught me a great deal. And I've imbibed that, having now come to faith. Now, I'm certainly not perfect in that area, but whenever I see the first signs of trouble, I know that I probably haven't prayed enough. And so go straight to my knees and then commit it to the Lord and then try not to be anxious afterwards. So that's one step. The second step is, again, because I'm a working mother, I have to juxtapose, work and, family life. And I've taken, tiny, tiny steps. For instance, one of the examples I gave earlier on was, leaving work at 5 p.m. and not overstaying. Now, professionally, that's a killer. Like, it just shows that you are not ready to become anything in that organization. But I've come to that point whereby I'm comfortable knowing that, God shall supply all my needs according to his riches in glory. And I've also come to understand that, my place is first and foremost, my responsibilities are first and foremost to my family and not to the office. That is not to say I should shirk my duties, but with every in trying to divide that time, I make sure that I prioritize family over work, right? Um, and some other things that I use to remind myself about it are Bible verses that I have, just printed on on my table at work. Every time I get to the office, it's the first thing that, opens up to me, and I'm reminded of what I'm supposed to embody that day, how I'm supposed to essentially walk with the spirit, right, and not gratify the desires of my flesh, which could include, wanting to usurp a staff, a colleague, or, just doing nefarious things. So those are, for me, the practical things that I do. And also sharing is really good. Unfortunately, like Sister Jesus sharing for me, I never had the opportunity. In fact, even till now, well, like, except for now that I'm in the local assembly, I never had that, um, the gift of family and people giving me advice, good or bad, except my mom. My mom was the loner here. And you know how women are, we can be stubborn. We might want to hear something from somebody else, can't hear from their mothers all the time. But I do admit that, having come to the local assembly, it has helped a lot hearing from other women. It's really, I've been blessed by that. And I would say to anybody to take that opportunity to speak with older women in the church, and or experienced women in the church, to learn from them, and then to seek their guidance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sis.
So now you are the last speaker, panelist. You have 5 minutes. You are beside me. I can elbow you. Speak.
Okay, so I wrote mine down and I would like to read. Um, so, I think it starts with, when it's preparing for motherhood, I think it starts with watching your mother or any mother around you, looking at their choices and the consequences of them. I saw my mother and I didn't like what I saw. I compared her to other mothers at school during pickup. Not many mothers came to pick their kids. Some are drivers. And when the mothers came, you could see that they were coming from work, by the way they dressed. My mom walked all through my toddler stage. I remember her picking us from school and then locking us in the house to go back to work when I was around 3 or 4, especially when we had no maid. So she worked till during my primary school times and then went to university when I was in secondary school. She worked a bit on the island for some months and then she quit to stay at home. So she ended up being a stay-at-home mom, which is what I did not like. My dad would later open a typing and photocopying shop for her in Unilag, which she sustained for a while before renting it out. Looking back now, I know I was naive and foolish in my judgment of her because it led me in the opposite direction, which wasn't biblical as well. I vowed to her face, and I told her many times that I would never be her. I hated the dependence on my dad, always had to ask my dad for money to get things in the house. I hated the lack of personal ambition outside of the home. I hated the fact that she was always around and over sheltering those children. You cannot go there. I felt like maybe she was working, she would have other things to do. So I couldn't wait to be free. So I definitely wasn't prepared for motherhood. I had a lonely childhood, and so I wanted 5 children. And that was all that I wanted. So that was all the thing that I wanted for marriage and family. I look forward to marriage, the companionship. I wanted someone that was mine and belonged to me and I belonged to, and I've always wanted that. And my priority, of course, was career before children. And I go for it. So I don't, so since I wanted my career before children, I put on family planning from when I got married. And when my mom would pray for children, I would say, please don't pray for children, no. I will just die, because the family planning that I had, and she would be like, how can you do that? Nobody does that. You've never been pregnant before. So I definitely was not prepared for pregnancy. You know, I wanted to spend time building my career and building my marriage with my husband before children will now come and spoil everything. So, and then when the pregnancies came, they were bad. And, I thought I would die, Yes, So the 2 years, as in, and God knew because He didn't allow me to have space safe because I probably would have had just one child. So I look forward to children. Oh. I like children. I like dressing them up. I like to make them look good. In fact, the only time I started feeling affinity for the baby in my womb was when they told me the gender. So I was like, oh, she's a girl. I can shop. So that was when I was a bit more, happy that I was pregnant because every other thing was just sickness, sickness, sickness. So I had no idea about breastfeeding, but I knew bottle feeding. I know how to feed a baby, but I didn't know anything about nursing. My husband and I did everything together. So I was unprepared for the change that motherhood would bring. We could not go out together as we used to. We had different roles in nursing and parenting. And, I just felt like he was just moving ahead and I was just going behind. And all this affected our relationship. We grew apart. I was unprepared for the drudgery. I don't know if you know drudgery, what it means when you're doing the same thing over and over, of chores. I like to keep a clean house. But when it comes to the cooking, I like to just cook like, when I'm in the mood, I feel like doing it. So I can do it. So I can cook, but which one is morning, afternoon, night, and every day? So I was not prepared for the constant mess of the house when you have children. So, of course, I was a screamer. I would scream at you, don't scatter that, don't do that, and I was obsessed with the fancy and tidy home. Yeah, so I was unprepared for the sacrifice of my personal space. Especially with growing children. I'm a very internal person. My mind is very active. So I like to be by myself, read, just do stuff. It might seem like I'm outgoing, yeah, but I have that, when I'm at home, there's a way So having a child coming around, asking questions, okay, when they cannot talk, it's not bad. I can put it you where you are supposed to be and then do it. Mama, you are now, when that time to talk, I was not prepared for that. So this playing with children, conversing with children, engaging children, no. I was unprepared for the hardship. At some point, I was dependent on painkillers because I was prone to having headaches. I was not prepared for the sleeplessness, the change of priorities due to a decrease in our standard of living, all the things that we couldn't eat out as often, couldn't travel abroad as often, and all this was because we had children, and I was not prepared for that. I was unprepared for a pause in my personal ambition and career. I was unable to get a job. Thank God for that, because if I had gotten a job, I'm gone. I was unable to get a job, and I was getting older, and I got pregnant again when Jasmine was 9 months. And my pregnancies are always very terrible. So by the time I even started looking for a job, I was already pregnant again, and I was just mad, And even when my pregnancy was so bad that my daughter had to be taken away from me because she was irritating me. You can imagine the kind of personality I have, with all that. So now being pregnant, Yeah. So I was unprepared for the mental block. I pride myself in being very intellectual. I couldn't read. I couldn't hold a conversation. I forgot things. My personality changed. Even my sex drive was affected. So motherhood changed everything. So as a result, I was constantly overwhelmed, angry, resentful. I became discontent and depressed, But the Lord showed me mercy. He gave me a support system, my local church, SGBC. Thank God for Sovereign Grace Bible Church. From there, I found women. At that point, I knew that I needed help. So when I came to SGBC, I did not hide. I was very outgoing, be my friend or I'll be your friend or, this is me, And from there, I found women, friends who mentored me. I'm grateful for, I'll not mention names. People that mentored me, that prayed for me and prayed with me. And then that became like where the Lord started, I think to really change me. I started to hunger for God, like, okay, what's God's will for my life? This cannot be it. So I started to read my Bible again. When I had Jason, I don't think I read my Bible for like 3 years. Until the sister asked me about that, and I was like, I used to love reading my Bible. Do you know, I can't remember, I don't know what happened. I can't read a sentence. I don't know how to read again. I can't keep anything in my head. And but I started to read my Bible again. I started to read books again. I remember reading Ted Tripp's Shepherding a Child's Heart. And then I found Elizabeth Elliot, and of course, people of SGBC know when I found Elizabeth Elliot, I was just shouting her name all over the place, because my life just changed forever. I sort of saw my need, and I saw that I had a lot of mind renewal to do, and these people, I was able to know from them my duties, as a wife and a mother, and I began to pray because, when you're discontent, you sort of think like, you've something has been taken away from you, and you are angry that this is what you deserve. So, when I started to, learn all these things, and reading my Bible gave me a love for God, and I wanted to please Him. So, in wanting to please Him, when I discovered that these are my duties, and I was zero, first you just stop being discontent. Like, sister, you're not even there. You don't deserve anything. You are nothing. So I began to pray. And then in praying, it led me to being content, not having a job, staying at home, preferring my husband, taking care of him, spending time with him, start to talk to children, all those kind of things, and so, but like I wrote here, I was prepared for the mockery of all these things that I've now learned are my duties that I'm now embracing, because I was once also a scoffer. I mean, if anybody had 2 children and they got pregnant the third time, I'll be one of the people that come and meet you. Are you okay? Why are you having children? So I'm that kind of, so I was prepared for when my friends will ask me, my friends not in SGBC, like, what are you doing in your life? And I'm like, oh, I'm with my children, and they were like, eh? So I took it like, this is who I used to be. So I counted the costs, and I have to keep counting the costs, because there are times that somebody will ask you a question, or you just say, what are you doing in your life right now? I'm like, so I hope in 10 years' time, you're not going to regret now. Like, maybe when others were advancing, and there's something that you could have been doing, and you were just at home, picking up children from school, and planning what they were going to wear the next day. Are you sure you're not going to regret this? And I have to remind myself again, like, talk to myself and say, no, this is what God wants for you. This is what God, and this is eternal. That was one thing, that this is eternal. All those other things are going to go away, are going to pass away, but this is eternal. I'm in charge of souls, and that always grounds my feet whenever I'm beginning to float away. There was something else I wanted to say. I was a bit prepared for having a special needs child, even though people might think I don't have one. Sorry. Although I was too shocked. I grew up with my sister, she has Down syndrome. And we're very close in age. So that's why I said I had a lonely childhood. So I grew up with always having to carry her around, always having to, explain why she's the way she is, the shame and the, embarrassment of when she does things and people look at her funny, and stuff. So me having a child that might even be anything like that was just like, no. So I tried to be very perfect in everything that I did when I was pregnant, so that I will not have a child like that. But I still did, even though she doesn't have Down syndrome, and but so I was a bit, but even then I was still traumatized, and by that. So I want to talk about being a mother again at 39 was also very tough. It brought a lot of scorning, It's like the world hates children, and so they lash out on motherhood. And there's this love of pleasure and love of self that is prevalent. So you giving yourself to dying. I mean, you still have 2 children that have already killed your dreams and ambition. So now say you want to have more, it's like you're mad. Like, is it like you enjoy this kind of life? You know, we thought, okay, you had no choice, you know, but now it's like you're enjoying this kind of, you know, so that was another stage of my life, and I had to remind myself again. So, yeah, that's my story.
You entered it. I wanted to ask you, maybe you flesh it properly. First is, what changes did you see that made you know God was working in you? There was one time you were totally off, and you now did it 180, and then how did you know that God has started working in you? What change did you see in yourself? That's number one. The second one is, even though you said that you were a bit prepared for a special needs child, were there any shocks when you finally realized that your daughter is a special needs? And what advice will you have for mothers who have special needs children? Or let me put it like this. Do you think in preparing for motherhood, we should, at the back of our mind, prepare for possible special needs children?
Okay, sorry, let me add one question. So you just added, you'll answer together. You had your first two, and then there was a long gap, and then you had your third child. You realized after the first two what your roles and duties were, and you needed to prepare according to God's will. So can you just maybe give us one or two differences that being better prepared as a Christian has helped you with your third child?
Okay, let me handle that first. I'm so grateful that I had how many years between Jason? 8 years in between my second and my third, because I think the Lord just prepared me. He worked on me, and I was a new person. You know, if not, because the things that I've been through with my third child, like, you know, I said I had no idea about nursing. My first two were bottle fed, all right? So my third child I'm breastfeeding, and it is crazy. If I did not know, if the Lord did not prepare me, there is no way I could have survived what I'm going through right now. You know, the anger would have been, the resentment, because I mean, number one, you already have space. Space gives you, I mean, your children are 7 years old, they're independent, they can get ready themselves, you can give instructions, you know, they're not making a mess like before. And then you're now starting again, you know, with the sickness. There was also sickness. And then my two children were really, I mean, I was so proud, I was so healthy. From having the children in the hospital, you've gone home, done the ceremony, everything. This one, there was jaundice, then there was hernia, then there was a circumcision gone wrong, and then and I was in the hospital back to back. I'm like, what is this? If I did not know that it's God that gives children, if I did not know the things like that, you know, children are a blessing from the Lord. If I did not know that whatever it is that is given to you, whatever hardship or difficulty or affliction is given to the Lord, by the Lord for a purpose. You know, when I had my 6 weeks old, I was going to have a surgery. I was going to have surgery, 3 surgeries. You know, Stailo was with me and she was saying, sis, God is with you, God is with you. I looked at her and I did not understand what she meant. Like, God is with me. I don't understand. What do you mean by God is with me? All I could see was them cutting in through my baby. So if it's not like the word of God that you have inside already, that just makes you say, Lord, I cannot question you, but Lord, help me. All I could say, oh Lord, please, have mercy on me. Have mercy on me. I know I cannot question you. I know you mean well. I know you are doing good. But help me. I don't know if I can handle. So all I kept on thinking there was, if the Lord should take this boy, can I handle it? Can I still be a witness for the Lord? So my mind was far. All right? You know, so if I had not grown to know who the Lord is and that the Lord is good and that He's faithful.
Remember in the hospital, they moved the surgery, so they gave us the wrong surgical kit.
Yes.
They gave us for adults. So because we went to get it back, they now say surgery is 8 a.m. They now say, no, it's 1 a.m. now, 1 p.m. now. Yeah. Baby had not eaten. So she asked
all
me.
Night.
So you say God is still good. I said God is still good, Samsola. Yes. It's still good, don't worry.
And you know, he was teaching me on providence, and I said, this is providence. I mean, the mistake was God's
sure?
providence.
I said,
yes.
God's providence. God is in charge.
All right, okay. So I just smiled. you know.
So yeah.
So if it wasn't that, and then if I had not, if it wasn't the church, because the people that were with me in church, Fumi, Pastor Sage, BC, that's good, So I wasn't alone, even though my husband was in Spain.
Yes, he was not around.
So it was terrible, but God was with me, really,
Okay, so this one.
So
Special needs. You were a bit prepared because not mentally, but you have an idea. But when you finally notice that your daughter, wonderful girl now, you never know anything now. Where are the shocks? One. Number two, do you think every mother should have at the top of her mind possibility of that?
Yeah. So I was shocked that I would have to carry this burden again all through my own life. I mean, having a sister, I've carried her, but I've not really fully carried her, but I've made a lot of sacrifices. I remember I had to stay back, in England because of her, even while I was married. So I've observed my parents, how they struggled. I've seen my mom cry, and I was like, okay, it's okay. As in, she has a mother, she has a father that are, taking care of her. And even though I'm still doing my own and I'm still carrying her, to not have my own was a shock. Like, no, Lord, why will you test me with this kind of a thing? I've not had enough, because if anything should happen to my parents, I know that my sister is coming to live with me, and she's a handful. So I'm like, why? Why will you do this kind of a thing to me? Okay. So you've given her to me. Okay, so she's mine. All right. Okay, so Lord, what would you have me do? And in praying, I prayed, I researched. The Lord sent me people, and I was at every point of weakness that I see. I was able to, trust God, even though I behaved badly for the better aspect of it. I don't know how she's the way she is. That's just God's mercy and God's grace, on me. I cannot even say I take any, because he heard all the things that I said about the kind of person that I am. To now have a child, and that's what I'm not going to say about whether I should prepare for a child that has special needs or not. Yes, you have to prepare for that kind of child, whether or not you're going to have a special needs child. Why? There's something that I wrote here. Okay. Of course, you're going to blame yourself. But wait, there's something I want to say. I remember praying. By that time, I really, started loving the Lord and knew the Lord. And I remember praying, the Lord, please improve her speech. Please help her to be able to read. If she doesn't know how to read, how will she be able to read a Bible? If she does not know how to speak, how will she be able to pray? If she cannot reason, because she's on the autism spectrum. If she cannot reason, how will she be able to reason your word and know you? Our God is not a simple, you need to know him. And those are the things that I used to pray, for her. Like, I want her to know you. I want her to love you. I want her to know what that means. I want her to know who Jesus is. I want her to be able to read the Bible. I want her to be able to ask questions, about her faith. So she needs a mental faculty. She needs to be able to talk. She needs to be able to understand sermons when she's listening. And truly, the Lord heard. The Lord heard. This my daughter would now be saying, Mommy, that sermon is like that hymn. That hymn that says she knows hymns and she's linking it to sermons. Of course now, me ungrateful mother, I'll still be saying, that your numeracy. You don't know. Why don't you know your math? You don't know this. The one that I pray, I did not pray for math that time. Can I ever pray for math? I can't even pray for math. Math was too far. I just wanted her to be able to talk. Because she would just point at stuff, and I had to teach her how to speak. So, the thing is, should you prepare? Yes. Because there's infirmity in every child. Yeah. Whether it's special needs or it's Down syndrome or physically disabled, there's infirmity, or it's pride, or there's a point you have to get to where when you see your child lying. It's a special need. When you see your child vain, or looking down on people, or talking down on people, or disrespectful, or ungodly, or promiscuous, loose, you at that point, that's a special need. You must prepare for your for your, not just how your child looks, the person of your child. And not just look at, oh, she's so nice, she's so good, no. Because as you're looking at her, trust me, you're going to see yourself. You're going to see, imagine you having a child that is a man pleaser. That's very terrible. Do you know? A child that wants to please, that aims to please everyone. Because if she finds herself in a rock crowd, she's going to want to please them and she's going to want to follow. And you remember yourself, when I was young, I was a man pleaser too. I followed this one and I followed that one and I followed. If you have a child that has a strong imagination, like she does an imagination like mine, I'm already teaching her. Guard your mind, Jasmine. Don't let your mind fly away. Don't let your mind, because I know that's me. So you have to be prepared for that. Not just having a child that's going to look good and is going to do well in school. No. So I think you should prepare. For that. Please.
I love the way you ended it. Special needs should go beyond. First of all, I'm happy we can talk about special needs. Special needs was a hot topic at the SGBC at one time. But thank God we can talk about, we have children who 2-3 years old, they were special needs. But now, you can't even know. After a sermon, the first person that comes to you is Jasmine. To say, that sermon, I think she's saved. She'll just tell you that sermon. And so we need to, but take it away from here to physical special need, to see their spiritual need as also special need. And then start preparing our mind for that. Thank you so much. This panel took my time. I'm going to pay. Okay, yeah, okay. Yes, please. Wait. Give Mike. Yeah. Wait, let them mic you. You're not going anywhere. The mic is special need. Take.
I just wanted to thank Stabsla for touching on that. Yes, especially, the fact that every other thing is special need, because there's also a shock that you see when you just realize that your child lied. There's this shock. That kind of thing. You're not also prepared for how you would react, what you would do. But on the special need, I just wanted to also encourage all women, apart from preparing yourself, saying that, okay, the Lord might give me a special need child, prepare yourself that the Lord might give your sister a special need child that you need to care for. Because I've also struggled a lot. I have special needs children, and then the fact that I'm learning to take care of my special need child, and my sister doesn't have a clue of how to take care of that same special need child. Maybe when the child is in your space and maybe I'm not there and all of that, and you're clueless, or maybe the child does something, you don't know what to do or how to help and all that, it can also hurt. So I just wanted to add that yes, apart from you should also just, being your sister's keeper, learn how to take care of a special needs child. Yeah.
Thank you so much. See, this is actually the essence of this format that we are doing. One of the pain points that I've seen SGBC is what you just said. And sometimes people might think the person that doesn't know is just being bad. But it's also part of the preparation. So now that we are free to talk about it, I think we must get to a point where we will start to train ourselves. I know she didn't want to agree at first that Jasmine had those difficulties. And it took a while. In fact, someone said that, I remember that they couldn't tell you fully. Because they've not told you, you're already freaking out. So you can imagine how someone that is not in your shoe will feel. But we need to get to that space where we can talk about it. And those who are already taking care of special needs children can share what they are doing, can educate other people, so that once we are taking care, once we are they're in our space, when they visit us, we visit them, we'll be able to relate properly. To see, like what you said, and which is a very good prayer point. If nothing, let them have enough cognitive ability to know your word and that they might be saved. We are brother's keeper, and I think this is the way to go. So we have no choice but to start to create ways to really bond and train everybody. And that's why visit everybody, visit sisters, don't have besties. I know there will be besties at the end of the day, but I'm sure you can see Sister Busola, she's a handful, but you learn a lot from her. But then you now switch to Sister Catherine, another personality. You go to Sister Chicha, another personality. When we move around like that, we will have picked everywhere, rather than just stay in our corner. So we'll end now. There's Q&A. I want you guys to put your questions down. They will leave now. We'll have a light breakfast. The breakfast now. Yeah, the fast is still being broken. Then we'll come for the second session and have another panel that will talk about spirituality. These ones will talk about how their spiritual growth has really helped their motherhood, or how it has affected them, their motherhood has affected their spiritual growth. So let's sing.